time. The right is going through a lot right now. It feels like on the right, you're either someone who is very, very principled and frequently banned off YouTube and sometimes even banned on X, having a hard time getting your feet under you, or you're a MAGA, we'll just use the term sloppulist, however it's pronounced, account with 3 or 4 million followers, and you don't really know your left hand from your right. And some of those people, these big influencer types on X or on Facebook or what have you, are good people. Do not misunderstand. Some of them are fine. I just want people overall, especially Zoomers, but also people in my generation. I'm Y, Gen Y, so I'm technically a millennial, barely, to move to the right. And some of these accounts on X are doing that. It's incremental, it's just a little bit at a time, but they are trying to move everybody to the right. And good, we need a whole lot more of that. So I want to begin by saying that that's almost the two different camps. But over time, that's going to change. Over time, people are going to come to our side. And this is not a popularity contest of, well, who can get the most followers? It's about winning. And whoever has the most followers right now is not going to always have the most support, the most followers. So that's an important thing to remember. There's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. I'll include this in the monologue quickly. Trump met with Putin up in Alaska. I'm going to talk for a while about the war in Ukraine in general, what all I think about it, but also going to talk about the Supreme Court. Kim Davis has presented a case. It is to be viewed by the Supreme Court. We also have some other separate Supreme Court cases. I also wanted to look at a headline where Kristi Noem said 1.6 million illegals have left. They were here, they self-deported, they remigrated. Also, there is talk of 4,000 soldiers that were deployed in Latin America to fight the cartels. I'm going to talk to you guys about that and why I'm opposed to it, importantly. But also, I will steelman the upshot. I will steelman the other side and talk about why some conservatives, some right wingers, are going along with the idea of troops leaving this country or our bases around the world. Not a ton of them, not abandoning their stations, but a certain amount are being deployed, most likely leaving. In some cases, if it's the Army, hard to say, but I know there's a lot of Marines in Parris Island, South Carolina. This could have been Fort Bragg in North Carolina, which is near towards me. These soldiers, 4,000 of them, have been deployed to fight cartels in a country that is not the United States. So we'll be talking about that shortly. Also, news about Beto O'Rourke, 2 stories, really, that I will be getting to later. We're going to begin with my thoughts on the war in Ukraine real quickly and this summit. So before I even read the headlines to you, this should be pretty clear that I've not been a big cheerleader for this war. I was one of Trump's cheerleaders in the sense of he said he was going to do things, take action to try to put an end to this war. Has he done it? Has he tried? He has tried. He has not done it. He has not actually successfully brought an end to this war, but it's not really for lack of trying. Some of this is Zelensky's fault. Some of this is probably Putin's fault as well. I'm going to read some headlines to you soon about this, and I would guess that eventually, as Ukrainian soldiers continue to die, Zelensky will get the ball rolling eventually. He will say, okay, we're tired of dying out here. We want more support from America than we're getting. It may be that Donald Trump does send some aid their way. That would be a betrayal of his base. That would be the opposite of what he said he was going to do. And I mentioned the sloppulous sort of like accounts on X. They're still going to and clap, 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 right? These people who really have no scruples. It's just Trump always right. And Sean Hannity frequently talks to the president. I'm sure he will go on Fox News and yell and scream about how Putin is a dictator and how it's great that Trump is finally showing him who's boss. It's like, well, if he does, that would be the same way that Biden, quote, showed Putin who was boss too, because it's the same behavior, sending military arms to Ukraine. And so I will give Trump a lot of grief if he does send more aid to Ukraine. I am not team always Trump. I'm also not team never Trump. There's a lot of people on the right that have turned sour against Trump. I have an interview coming out soon where I had NRX enthusiast back on, and there's a lot of good things that Trump has done, and we talked about some of them there. I'm not going to make this episode all about Trump doing good things. It'll instead be about some of the important headlines I've mentioned. But the point is that this war has been going on for far too long. It's very possible that what Trump says is true, that Putin saw the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan and thought, well, if Biden's going to do stupid stuff like that, he's probably not going to do a whole lot if I invade Ukraine. But the thing is, I don't know, because if that's the case, it seems to be a miscalculation. We have not gotten into a hot war with Russia, but it has been not only a Cold War with Russia, but a proxy war where we have sent billions of dollars in both money and in weapons to Ukraine and in economic aid, foreign aid, so forth and so on. And so that seems like, if we're going to use this whole thing like, we use with Trump, 4D chess, sounds like Putin's chess move back in 2022 did not play off very well. He's kind of putting himself in a very, very long, difficult stalemate. Now, is Russia losing the war? No, overall, they're winning the war, but they're losing a lot of soldiers as well, and time, money, and resources. And so they're going to eventually want to come to the table too. So that's an important thing worth noting. Now, if I had to guess, and I'll talk a little bit after I read some headlines about what I think is going to happen. I want to remind you guys, this is the monologue portion. I will soon not only be doing things with the monologue, but also read your chats later because I want to hear your thoughts. But if I had to guess what is going to end up happening with this war between America and Russia, really is what it is, with Ukraine caught in the middle, most likely what I think will happen is eventually Putin will come to the table because Zelensky comes to the table first. And then Trump will broker some kind of a deal in which neither one fully gets what they want, but the war will be done for, I would say at the least the war will be done for 10 years. It might even, the ceasefire might break sooner than that. But I would say the war will probably be paused for 10, 20 years, and then eventually Russia's either going to decide they want more, or someone in Ukraine is going to do something stupid, and Putin will move back in. It could be, because, Ukraine has conducted bombings of their own civilians in the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, people that refused to speak the Ukrainian language and they wanted to speak Russian, and also voted in a way that Ukraine didn't want. They voted to join Russia, which, of course, Zelensky and his predecessor did not like. So that's the upshot. It's the big 5,000-foot view of what I'm going to be covering. The military-industrial complex is really doing their best to get their hooks into Trump. I didn't even mean to read this, but I think that I'm going to. There's a really interesting article, and I'm going to find it real quick and read it to you. Let me see if I can find it, but I'm sorry, excuse me. There's an article written by the Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin, who has been called Putin's brain in the sense that, he's smarter than Putin, or he does a lot of Putin's thinking for him. Not sure how much that's true. He's the philosopher guy that actually helps Putin do what he wants to do. He kind of gives the theory behind it all. And so some people don't like Alexander Dugin. I find him to be an extremely intelligent man. But he wrote an article recently that I really wanted to read out loud. MAGA, GOP, and Trump is the title of this article. The Last Battle for Sovereignty. Let me see if I can quickly screen share it. By the way, if quality gets worse because of it, let me know. But I'm going to at least briefly show you the headline. So here is the article, MAGA, GOP, and Trump, The Last Battle for Sovereignty, and that is by Alexander Dugin. I'll hide it back again. I'm going to read it a little bit. Not the whole thing, but some. I will say, Dugin seems to really view MAGA as being a whole lot more anti-war than I do. I view MAGA as, in a lot of ways, a bunch of grandmas with Walmart flags, as Razorfist like to say. But he views it as a little bit more of a congruent movement against war and hardcore on the border. Definitely hardcore on the border. And old MAGA was. 2016 MAGA definitely was. But I think MAGA has evolved over time. MAGA is really important political and ideological phenomenon. And the grammar is not always going to be the best because this is probably originally in Russian but been translated. It was essential in Trump's victory. But Trump is compromised, so yeah, bad grammar, between GOP and MAGA. Trump, driven by MAGA, has won elections, but afterwards passed to GOP with its neocon core. GOP neocons want Trump to abandon MAGA irreversibly and become neocon. I presume that infights in MAGA are instrumentalized and somehow provoked by the GOP. So now we have three units. Neocon GOP, MAGA in full disarray, and individual Trump, so Trump himself, posing as sovereign dictator on the top of both. In fact, MAGA is a third party symmetric to the uniparty of deep state, meaning the neocons, the globalists, and radically opposed to it. So you've got the uniparty of the deep state on the one side, is what he's saying when he says symmetric. That's the deep state and the uniparty on one side. Then on the other side, you've got MAGA, diametrically, radically opposed to it. The different figures of MAGA now fight each other. So uniparty is dismantling MAGA as a serious threat that gained huge influence. Vance is regarded as a second chance to repeat Trump's move, compromise between MAGA and GOP. But GOP neocons now feels itself too powerful to tolerate Vance. Vance is most likely to be the key person in MAGA instead of being as well severely criticized by frustrated MAGA. Okay, so that is some of what he wrote. And again, he really Dugin overall views MAGA as being a little bit more congruent. I really view MAGA as starting to become the establishment because, for example, Lara Trump is now a leader in the Republican Party. You can't say that MAGA, the organization started by Trump, is no longer part of the Republican Party. It is because someone in the Trump family, who's probably taking orders from her father-in-law, meaning Donald Trump, taking these orders, she's running the Republican Party with Michael Whatley. They're co-chairs of the Republican Party, right? So as a result, MAGA is split. There's those like Sean Hannity who calls himself a Ronald Reagan, what's the other term? Maybe like a compassionate or No Child Left Behind. And then also an America First or Make America Great Again conservative. That's what Hannity called himself. He's no more America First than the man in the moon. He's completely against America First. He is all about the neocon and the neoconservative welfare and warfare state. Sean Hannity loves all that. He's very establishment. So does Ben Shapiro, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to leave him out of this. But the point that I'm